Welcome to another episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Wester from Sherman Independent School District, PD. He is celebrating his 33rd year in law enforcement coming December 1st of 2025. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So welcome to the show, Chief Wester. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
You're welcome. I think, when this goes live, it'll be after December 1st. So it'll be officially 33
Oh, wow.
years, which is
Okay.
amazing. Give us a little bit of background. Who are you? How did you get started in law enforcement? Anything you want to share with us about your personal or professional life?
Sure. So I started out in my early 20s. I'll tell my age, I'm 57 years old. So I started my career in 1992 here in Sherman with the Grayson County Sheriff's Office. I spent about 4 years on the streets here. One of my best friends from high school ventured off to Grand Prairie PD, and I decided to follow him. Applied for Grand Prairie PD, and it was probably the best decision of my life. Spent 21 wonderful years there with that city. Did a facet of jobs, whether at Mounted Patrol, CID, SWAT, patrol officer. I ran our Santa Cop program that we did for the city. It's the second largest nonprofit in that city. We took care of about 1,000 families, around 500 kids for Christmas each year. That was that's my bread and butter. I really miss that. And then got pulled back home to Grayson County where I grew up. Hey, would you retire and want to come back to work for the sheriff's office as their lieutenant, to build their CID division, which I did. Retired, came home. Spent another 4 years with the sheriff's office, and Sherman ISD was looking for a police chief back then. So September of 21, I got hired to build the police department here for Sherman ISD, and 4 years later, I'm still here.
I love
So
it.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I do remember you telling me about that program that you were invested in. And I'm curious because, we have a lot of conversations about longevity in this career and, kind of times of burnout that tend to happen. Do you think that by giving back and being a part of that, what would you call it? A program?
Yeah, it's giving back to the community that you're
Yeah.
working in every day.
You
And
think that
so
helps with
I think it
longevity?
I think it helps tremendously.
Yeah.
And I was there for the long haul. I had no intention of retiring. I loved what I did. I loved the community. They embraced me and I embraced them. Because when you're giving back in that type of environment, you get to see people at their lowest and at their highest through your career. But when you're doing that type of a program and you get the entire department involved, you get to see what a lot of kids and families miss out on every year.
Yeah.
And the day of giving, when they come and receive the gifts that we package for them throughout the year, is something that you can't describe. It's really heartfelt to see a little kid crying over a toy, or a parent's hugging you because they wouldn't have got anything if it wasn't for the program. So to me, that's the cause. You're giving back to the community that you're invested in and working in. And I believe if more of those officers would get involved in programs like that, to be able to see what goes on in the community, the longevity I think would be further,
Yeah.
because you are part of that community, and the officers need to know that you are part of that community.
Yeah. Man, I that actually like made me a little emotional because I can only imagine, as a parent, if you felt like you couldn't give your kids presents for the holidays and you were able to have someone within the community step in to help you with that. I also think that when you surround yourself with all hard things, it's really hard to understand the good things, and when you do see those good things, it makes everything that you sacrifice and all the hard things worth it. And I think sometimes we get so like inundated in the day to day and the grind that we forget to zoom out a little bit and to put in the effort towards the good stuff, you know? And so I would imagine that if you're an officer and all you do is take calls for service and all you do is see stressful things, hard things, traumatic things over and over and over again, that becomes your reality and you kind of lose touch with maybe the why, or you lose touch with the goodness that is also there and you forget about that. And so by having the opportunity to give back to the community, to connect with the community, it makes all of that trauma, all of that stress worthwhile when you have the opportunity to see the good.
Absolutely, absolutely does. And I think it worked for me for those years that I was there because you run call to call, you see some of the worst of the worst. And when I was in investigations, I seen a lot of the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
But yes, to be able to put that in the back of your mind and then uh, where you're giving back and you get to see those smiles and the embracement of the community and know that they do appreciate you, that goes a long way. Goes a long
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, and I also think that, and we've talked about this before, but your personal experience with people will shape your perception long term. And so these families that are being supported by you guys, they're going to have a perception of law enforcement that's positive because they're going to see things on the news and they're going to be like, "Well, that wasn't my lived experience. My lived experience is that they stepped in and they helped me during a really hard time. They
Right.
stepped in and, they allowed my kid to have joy over the holidays when I couldn't provide that for them in those moments." And so I think that even the long-term perception and relationship that you're building with the community is there.
That's the key word. I was waiting for you to say it. The relationships.
Yeah.
Yes. I've had to learn that in my career. I think my mentors had helped me understand how important that relationship is to where I am today. The relationship means so much to me
Mhm.
with the district, with the kids, with the faculty, because we're a family, and that's the way I look at it. You know, these that relationship is the key. That is the
Yeah.
key.
Well, and I think too, if we look at it, and we can like really think about what it takes to have a positive long-term relationship, it takes a lot of time and effort, and sometimes I think that we make excuses for ourselves that we don't have the time, and so therefore we don't put in the effort. But if you want a long and successful relationship with anybody, whether that's, a romantic relationship, a relationship with a friend, a family member, a community member, someone within your organization, that there has to be that time and that attention to it.
Agreed. 100% agree.
You had told me, and you said it just now, and I was hoping you could kind of expand on this a little bit, that you had some really good examples of leaders and mentors. What were some of the things that they taught you that kind of stuck with you throughout your career?
Man, I've had a lot of good ones, right? One you've had on your show, you know, Steve Dye,
Yeah.
uh, you know, was my chief, and he was my mentor, one of my mentors for this job. And I've had several others, Chief Gudgel and Chief Craig Miller, uh, helping me, encouraging me, Sheriff Watt, my former sheriff, um, being able to see what they saw in me, uh, next level of leadership meant the world to me. And to be able to go out and ask them for advice for this role meant a lot to me. So I've been very grateful for forever for that. But it's more just, hey, you know, see the other side of the bigger picture, the relationship, how important it is, and to build positive relationships with not only my staff, to when you have a staff and how you're supposed to um, build the relationships with your staff because you're building something that's going to be seen by all eyes in your community, right? And to be able to understand what they're going to be looking for would help me to how I'm going to build my department.
Yeah. You know, I feel really honored to have had a lot of amazing leadership and chiefs on this podcast. And um, I've loved every conversation that I've had. I will say that Chief Dye sticks out a little bit, like there's something about him that I feel like, and it goes back to what you're saying about relationships. The way that he talks to you makes you feel important and that he's busy, but he has that time to like give to you and to talk to you and look you in the eye. And it feels so genuine. And so I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to work with him and many other leaders too, and, have those experiences where people care about you because I've had a lot of conversations where chiefs haven't felt that way, and the way that they lead today is kind of in spite of maybe poor leadership or examples that they've had. And so for you to come forward and say, you know what, I'm really grateful because I actually had some really good people that looked out for me and helped me along the way. I think that that's really cool.
That's true, and I've also had the bad. I'll be honest with you, I have had the bad.
Sure.
And you're right. It's made me understand, hey, I don't want to be like that guy, right?
Mm.
I'm going to do polar opposite of that. And I'm sure there are so many stories out there across the country the same way. But I know that with my team, I care about my team, and my team knows that. I care about their families, their well-being, um, check on them every day. I may not see them every day, but I check on them every day. And I want to have that one-on-one dialogue with them, not just about work, but just about, hey, what's going on in your home life? How's your son doing? Or how's your husband or wife doing? So they know I do care, and it's a personable care. It's not fake, it's real. And then because that again, longevity, I want my officers to stay. And when they have a happy environment, they enjoy coming to work every day. They know they're supported. It makes things in the department much smoother.
Yeah. And then the way they show up in the community is going to be more positive as well.
Correct. Absolutely.
You told me that um, the why changes over time. How has your why changed from when you first started in this career to where you are today?
I don't know. I think the why back then, um, I was looking at it maybe for monetary, for a paycheck. Really didn't understand what all was going into it as a young rookie. And then as the years progress, my why changes. The why is back in the day, man, physical fitness was important to me. Rolling around the mats, wrestling with former officers that I had in Grand Prairie to learn those defensive tactics was important. And
Mhm.
then I get older, you get older, you get older. You kind of get away from those things a little bit. And then you get into a school system, man, things are so much different in a school setting. Your why is now, man, the way I describe it is we're a mini city within the city. The exact same crimes that go on the outside happen on the inside. And I didn't understand that until I got into this role. But being able to one-on-one mentor with some of these kids that don't have a father, they don't have a mother, and to watch them graduate, that's my why.
Mm,
Because now it's different. It's different because when they come back to a homecoming game or they come back to a graduation ceremony and they, hey, Chief, I hear it and I look and it's my ex-students and I can embrace and hey, how's your future doing? How are you doing? That's the why. The difference is changing a little bit from the role that I'm in. Um, but I think probably for everybody it changes a little bit from when you first start to where I look forward every day to coming to work. My why is these kids and my why is the staff to make sure that they're safe every day, to make sure we're putting the correct measures in place for them to feel safe when they come to work or go to school. And not only that, for the parents, peace of mind to know when they walk into a Sherman school district that they know that we put things in place where they're safe every day. And
yeah.
that means more to me than anything.
You're making me kind of reflect on my why, and obviously we have different career paths, but I was trying to think about my why. And what was interesting with what you just said is maybe when we were younger, and I can relate to this, maybe when you're younger, the why was, kind of for, I say this in quotes, like maybe like selfish reasons, right? It's like, oh, the money, the paycheck, or,
Mhm.
I want to do this for me. And then as you progress, the why becomes about them. And that's what I heard with you. You're like, yeah, the why maybe was for this in the beginning and maybe for me or for paycheck, and now the why is all about them. And I think that that is really beautiful to, as you develop and as you grow, it becomes so much more about the mission and about the people and the impact that you can have long term on people's lives.
Absolutely. That is the impact, we go through mental health training here. We go through crisis intervention training where right next door to my office is our facility that has kids that have some mental health issues. And I can tell you there's one that's special to my heart, who I've known since elementary, who has issues, where I can walk into that building where he is having some issues and immediately see me and calm down. And we have built that relationship over the past 4 years where he trusts me, I trust him, and I can help him with his mental health. Because not only am I doing that, all my officers are doing that. Well,
Yeah.
they'll take a kid into their office and have that one-on-one conversation, where they may not want to talk to a faculty member, but they'll talk to the police officer. And then we can get to the root and try to get them the help that they need because we do with suicides, uh, not really attempts, but we deal with the thought of in our school, with kids, and it goes back to my personal story, and I'm going to get emotional because it's still very near to my heart. A couple of years ago, and the thought of losing one of my siblings, my son or daughter, is devastating. It was to our family, but I told him, and I tell myself, there was a reason God saved his life. Um, and it makes my story to these kids a little different now. That
Yeah.
I can come across them in a different way of, hey, I'm not just a cop, I'm a dad who has a son or a daughter that did try to take their life, and live that story with them to make them understand that I'm real and I'm trying to help them, and get them the resources that they need.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
One of the things that you were saying, and I don't know why I thought of it this way, but we talk about it's interesting that the conversations we have in wellness about like ROI, right? And I'm gonna get like kind of businessy, right? You talk about like return on investment and investing into these programs or investing into these things. And when you're sharing that story, and you said that when you walk in, you have kids who immediately calm down. They trust you. They have that relationship with you. That is an ROI. That is a return on investment. Like you are investing your time and your energy and your resources into your community, into these kids. And that's the return that you're getting from them, to be able to have that impact on your life. And so I think sometimes we talk a lot about different things, but we don't think of it in that way of like, how can we every day invest in other people? It's not monetary. It's time, it's energy, it's attention. It's how can we invest in their future or in their lives to have a positive impact.
correct. Yeah. And when they come to school every day, they're alive every day. They have a purpose. And I keep telling them their purpose is to graduate. That's their purpose. That's they should want to be successful, and their graduation is one of those successful moments in their career. And a lot of them, that I never thought would make it, made it.
Mm,
But that's the reward. You're right. It is a
yeah.
huge reward, and it's for mental health sake, for our mental health. Um, it's really good working with these kids for mental health for me. And I know my officers feel the same way sometimes, because the joy of seeing them be successful is a positive from all the negatives that we have in our life every day.
Yeah.
So you're able to put those negatives back and see the positives and just keep moving forward.
I wish that you guys were around when I was in school. I didn't have that. I didn't have someone in my corner rooting for me or trying to, you know, help me or give me any sort of hope that there was a future. I came from a pretty challenging childhood and I almost didn't graduate high school. I had to work really hard to graduate high school and have a full senior schedule and extra credits offsite and all the things that I had to do. And I didn't have anyone in my corner telling me I could be something better than my situation that I was born into. There was always this idea that I would just end up like my parents and I would end up a drug addict or in prison. And that was kind of, the bar was set very low. And even the bar that my parents set for me was really low. I think that they were trying to maybe drag me down, or maybe they just didn't know where a high bar was. They didn't know it themselves, so they didn't know how to teach that to me or instill that in me. And so I really appreciate the work that you're doing right now because I think my life would have been a lot easier, and I maybe I would have had more determination if I would have known that there was another option and instead
Right,
I think I started taking the wrong paths and ditching school and getting into trouble and doing the things that I shouldn't have been doing because I didn't have someone telling me that I could do better.
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
You shared a personal story and a little piece of you and some hard times. How did you get through some of the hardest times of your career? What was that guiding light that helped you to keep going?
Uh, I guess the why, the purpose of why I'm here on this earth, was what kept me going. Having a good network of friends, um, that kept pushing me, right? Unfortunately, with our career and a lot of our careers comes with divorce. And that's not fun for anybody. I think the toll on the job may have a lot to do with it, maybe some, um, because it's different. It's different for a wife to be married to a husband or vice versa to going into law enforcement, don't really understand. You're gone all the time, you're not at home. They see the worst of the worst. Some of them come home with it. Some of them bring that stuff home. Um, and then it causes more problems in the home. I honestly, I have no idea why God has put this in my life, but be able to come home, flip the switch, and leave it at work was something that I was always been able to do. Now, being able to come home and talk about it to the spouse, uh, it's good when you have a spouse that wants to hear those things, right? Um, and, and what I have now and what I've had for the last 11 years. Um, but not only that, but just making sure that you have God in your life, the Holy Spirit in your life, prayer, church, um, was something that I was missing. And I was missing in my current marriage. And until I saw the light and knew that I was going to lose another one if something didn't fix right. And I will tell you that I've never been happier than ever. Because we know we love each other, we love the Lord, we go to church, our lives have changed, our kids can see it in us, which then goes to them, right? They see mom and dad happy. We have grown kids. We have grandkids now. So
Yeah.
it's really fun. But to be able to just have that best friend in your life that you get to see every day, and share with every day, is remarkable. It really is. It's really changed my life. And I think because of that, because of God in our life, because our marriage got fixed, because all the things got fixed, God put this job in front of me because back then all this was going on and we had gotten my life fixed. I got my life straight. I knew what my priorities were. And then God said, "Okay, I'm gonna give you this opportunity." And thankfully this is where I am.
I love that. How do you think, because one of the things that I've learned through these conversations is that, in your profession, there's a stigma on wellness. There's a lot of, I'm fine, everything's fine, like having this kind of, facade or this barrier, when it comes to feelings and the things that are maybe going on beneath the surface. How can someone maybe assess some of the signs within themselves that maybe they do need some of those resources or those outlets? And how do you think you can look for those signs in other people to be able to provide that support, if someone is going through a hard time, but maybe not wanting to show it on the surface?
Well, one of our jobs is body language, right? We
Mm.
all know how to read body language. We want to read everybody else's body language but our own. And so would you like for me, for my instance with my son, I knew I was shutting down. I knew I was getting distant, I was getting quiet, I didn't know how to deal with it. And I'll be honest with you, it took me several days to be able to get on a text thread and reach out to my core and, hey, this is what happened and I need some help.
Yeah.
It took a while. And it was not only of, man, I'm embarrassed by what happened or what people are going to think because this happened, and not really knowing what it was going to feel like putting that out there. But after I did it, man, I felt a lot better because I had the resources to help me and I didn't have to hold it in. And not only that, my wife is supportive. We had that communication too, but internally you got to look at your own self and know the signs. And that is shutting down. That is getting quiet. That is not being yourself. Because I'm an upbeat personality and like to have fun and joyful. And when that's going the opposite way, that's when you need to realize, hey, I'm not myself. And luckily here with the school district having a plethora of certified counselors at any given campus, and building those relationships and be able to find one that you have that relationship with and say, hey, I need some help and be able to have that communication and talk, uh, was very beneficial.
Yeah.
Um, but we just have to realize in our profession that things are going to happen, um, and be able to talk and get over that you're just a cop and you have this Superman facade that all things are well and they're really not. And to be able to, like I said, you got to be able to be honest with yourself and be able to reach out and say, I need help, um, because we all know what the worst outcome could be,
Yeah.
and that's what we don't want.
Yeah. And there's so much courage and strength in reaching out. When you said that, like that's what I felt when you said, it was hard, but then you did. You reached out, you reached for resources, and I saw courage in that action. And you're right. I think we can all relate to that fear of not wanting to be judged or not wanting to be perceived as weak or broken or whatever it is, But then when you do finally, reach that point where you recognize that you need resources and you take that step to get the resources that you need and the support you need, it feels, at least my experience, it took a while to get there. I'm not going to say that this happened like first go for me, but it took a while. But it, I feel so much stronger. I feel more confident. I feel more like secure in the things that happened because I think that it's almost just the fear of the unknown of what's going to happen that holds you back. But as soon as you put yourself out there and you start getting the resources that actually help you, that fear kind of disintegrates because now you know that we think of the worst case scenario of, how people are going to respond to us. And my experience is it was really the opposite response of what I thought was going to happen. And the people who did show up for me really showed up for me.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And those friends know that I would do the same for them, right?
Yep.
Uh, so having that network, and not only outside, but internally, I have a command staff that we're really close. We all have personal issues that we can talk to each other and not hold that in. And I think we all understand that. And I think that's what we've instilled in our guys here, our troops, is hey, if there's a problem, come tell us.
Hmm.
We'll help you through it. There's resources out there that'll help you through it. And I think for the majority, most of all ours have. When they've had issues at home that's affecting a sibling or a husband or a wife that gets really bad, uh, the door's always open. And they know we have that open door policy to come in and just chat and talk and hey, just be yourself, forget the cop right now. What can we do to help you get better?
Yeah.
And and that's if that is portrayed to your guys, your troops, I think that makes everything so much better in your organization because that trust, if you don't have the trust, then well, that's not good.
Yeah. Well, and it also goes back to what we talked about before with relationships.
Right.
Now you're building relationships within the organization that are strong. So, thank you for sharing. I want to kind of maybe switch gears a little bit. I'm gonna kind of call you out a little bit in some of your responsibilities and titles here. So you are
Okay.
the fourth vice president for the Texas School District Police Chief Association, and you're also their legislative liaison. Don't ask me to say that three times in a
Yeah.
row.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would love to, kind of get your insight on school system policing. Your experience with that, maybe some of the challenges, some of the laws, and some of the things that you're working on right now.
Well, I had no idea what I was getting myself into 4 years ago. I'll tell you that. But um, man, where to start with this? My legislative background comes from being on the largest police association, Texas Municipal Police Association back in the day. I was actually president of that organization from in 15 and 16, and basically just we take care of law enforcement officers all across Texas, provide them not only with legal status but other things at the Capitol. And I was able to be in the legislative part of that back then, and it's just got into my veins. People say you are ridiculous to want to do anything with legislation, right? Dealing with those people at the Capitol, but I actually enjoy it because, and that's what kind of got me when I became the chief. I got involved with the Texas School Districts Police Chiefs Association. They didn't really have that legislative um, voice or we're growing now. There's probably 400 ISD police departments in Texas now, pretty close. It's growing. So to have a voice at the Capitol is so important because there's laws every other year every 2 years that affects what we can and can't do in schools. A lot of people don't know that we can't write a ticket anymore and to a kid in school.
Mhm.
That law was taken away. So there's a different ways we have to, if we have to file charges on a kid, there's a different way to do it. Um, and just getting the school system to understand what it takes to build a police department. I think that's what I hear across the state that's the most bothersome for chiefs because it's weird when you're having to put officers into a campus uh, and school districts are operating the way they know how to operate, and now you have to incorporate a police department inside that. It's a learning curve. And
Yeah.
I think 4 years in, we're still learning it, right? And of what we can do and what we can't do. We're not there for discipline. We can't be for discipline. We can't say, hey, dude, you need to take your hoodie off, or you need all those things that are inside of a school are not our role. We are there for the safety and security of the school. We're there to make sure that the bad guy doesn't come to the front door, and a lot of other things. But that's probably the biggest hiccup that I've seen and what I'm hearing. Hey, school districts don't want to relinquish the video to the officers, the PD. I'm like, well, why? And what I teach across the state is, again, the famous word relationship. If you guys can go in as a police department and build the relationship with your school district, your principals, your superintendents, and let them know that you're all there for one purpose, and that's those kids,
Yeah.
things will change, right? But I think a lot of it is, wait, you're coming into my territory. This is my school. We do it my way. I get it, but we're there for the same purpose. We're there to help each other. And I think that's what we built here. And I try to tell other chiefs and other people that I teach, if that's what's going on in your district, then the relationship's not there. You got to go fix the relationship before anything's going to get fixed. And it's that way in Austin. Austin wants to come up with laws that affect funding for schools for security, where there's a lack of funding. Um, uh, and we have to go down there and fight for the extra funding. And it shouldn't be a fight. It shouldn't be. It should be common sense. But those are the roles that we play, from not only myself, but the entire board has really cares about school safety, and we're going to make sure Austin knows about it.
Yeah.
Uh, that we're there for those chiefs, we're there for those officers, a resource for them, and to make sure that when a law is coming up for testimony, that we are at the table, that they bring the experts in, they listen to us and realize, okay, this is a bad bill or this is a good bill, and here's why. So that's why we exist. And I think that's what I don't have to end it, but that's what I enjoy, going down there and fighting for all of us, because we're all in this together, every one of us. And I've been to meetings with superintendents in the room, and I said, listen, we're a voice for you at the Capitol as well,
Hmm.
because we're all trying to get the same thing. And I think once that marriage gets better, the relationship gets better, things will happen a whole lot better for police departments and school districts across the state.
Yeah. What are the things that you would really like to see in the future? Is there like, I'm sure there are a lot with your face, but
Well,
are there certain things that you're like, yeah, I would just really would love to see this in the future for us?
Well, if if the state would give more funding for safety and security, and quit making excuses, I think we as chiefs would be able to do a lot more, right?
Mhm.
Um, we just have a phenomenal district here where we have so many safety measures in place, that we run metal detectors for our secondary campuses. Um, we have other things that I can't talk about that are safety related, that sets us I think, above.
Yeah.
When I have school districts coming into Sherman going, hey, how are y'all doing this and how's it working? And they come see it, and then they go back to their district to implement those things. That sets Sherman, I think, really high on the scale. But it's because our community cares about safety and security.
Yeah.
And but it takes money to be able to do those things, right? Um, I think they should relinquish more money. I think they should get officers back the ability to write a ticket into to a student on a campus that deserves a ticket, that may be cursing out a teacher, that is doing some other classy offenses on the campus. I think if you give those tools back to the officers, with some limitations, I think it'll help the school district, because I've heard administrators going, man, when they took that away, it killed us.
Mm.
But the kids knew, hey, I can get away with this, and they can't do anything to me anymore. And that's never good.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing, Paige, is if the lawmakers would just have us at the table, have the experts at the table to discuss the bills, and understand we're in it. We're not in it to one up each other. We're in it for the safety and security of all our schools. I think that will help a lot once those lawmakers knew we really uh, are invested and we care about our communities and we care about our students and staff.
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen, and of course I've had a lot of conversations about this in different capacities, but it's this idea that there isn't a lot of proactive, that sometimes it's not until something really bad happens that
Abs-
then it's a priority.
Absolutely.
How do you get that message across that it's like, hey, we don't want this really bad thing to happen, and therefore we need to be proactive. We need the resources now. We don't want to wait until something happens to then implement the resources.
Well, you would have think with Uvalde, unfortunately, Uvalde, some of that started changing a little bit, but they want to get more proactive. But honestly, proactive has given us some funds
Yeah.
to buy the things that we need to make our school safe. We have Centegix. Centegix is a game changer for us over the last couple of years. We went to Centegix. It's a silent panic button system that's mandated by law. But for us, man, as teachers have the button right at their disposal, I need help, or to put a campus into a lockdown for whatever they see, right? That has helped. One thing that's helped us tremendously, and I know a lot of schools have different variations of that, but that's just a safety measure. Weapon detection cameras are a huge thing to be able to detect that weapon on the outside coming into your campus. Those are good tools to have as well. You know, all the mandates that come down that you have to have a shield, you have to have breaching tools, you have to have all these things. Um, well, all that takes money.
Mhm.
And school districts just don't have a money tree on the backyard just to go pick money from. And it's relinquishing more money for safety and security. That just doesn't seem to be the hugest priority in Texas.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
Well, and we see it too in, the officer wellness space, and, it's kind of this like question of, well, what is the cost for not doing these things? What is the cost for not prioritizing the wellness of your officers? What is the cost of not prioritizing the safety of the students? What is the ultimate cost? Is it a life? Is it, someone within the organization retiring early? Like what is the cost? And a lot of times I think when we ask that question of, okay, well, what is the cost if we don't do these things? It's a lot higher than doing the things.
Right.
But it's hard to get people. I think that unfortunately, like human nature is a little bit more reactive, not dealing with a problem till there's a problem.
Right.
But I think that, we can all ask ourselves those questions, and we can use it in really, really simple terms within ourselves, or we can use it within the organization or within, the school district as a whole. But what is the cost for not doing these things? Is that greater than the cost for doing the things? And usually the answer is yes.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, reunification is one of the things that is the big thing for school districts, just is reunification in the event if something happens. Um, I think having school districts understand that that is should be your bread and butter. You should train. It's just like anything else. If you're not training for it, then when the thing happens, you're gonna be behind the curve, and you're gonna
Mhm.
have a whole lot of parents upset because they want to be reunified with their kid in the event of a bad situation. So training is the key. Municipal police departments, county departments, what's the first thing they cut? Their training budget,
Yeah.
right? Because they need to spend it for other things. That can't be, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Uh, Training is important, um, because you need to prepare for when that's going to happen.
Yeah. What's that saying that it's like you don't rise to the level of expectation, you fall to the level of your training. Have you
Hmm.
heard this before?
Hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Um, you know, we've heard this before, and I'm not exactly sure where it was, so forgive me for not knowing exactly where this was, but there was a conversation recently about this, about how there was a school campus that did have an active shooter, and one of the officers maybe didn't get there as quickly as they could have. There was like some story about this, where maybe they had to like stop and start running because they didn't have the ability to run the entire way.
Right.
And I think when we talk about like it's full circle, training is important. That's a part of wellness, making
Hmm.
sure that your officers are well and can do the job, and then also making sure that you have the resources to keep the kids safe as well. And so I think it's kind of all intertwined and interrelated. But I agree with you. I think that wellness and training are always the first things that go, but they're the things that are required to get the end result of keeping your community that you serve safe.
Right. And we train as much as we can in the summer for those events to happen. Um, I think, my guys right now are pushing me, hey Chief, can we work out during our lunch period? Can we
Mhm.
go to the gym?
Sure.
And it's yes, is I want you to be physically fit, right? I want you to be doing all the things, but it's also in the back of my mind, man, I've got 8,000 kids to take care of during the day if so it's trying to find a balance between us and the administration to allow that wellness. We've got some phenomenal coaches here that have been on me. Hey, 5 o'clock in the morning, come on, I'm waiting on you uh, to get that going again. So that's something that we're working on. We're
Yeah.
working on it. But yes, you have to be able to mentally and physically prepare yourself for when that happens to be able to respond. And if you're not in that mindset or and if your mindset's not ready, you're not, it's gonna fail. You're
Yeah.
gonna fail. Uh,
One of the things that I see you guys, I don't know why I just thought about this, but you have so many things going on. I always feel like an underachiever when I talk to you guys because you are doing so many things, but it's like those like circus performers that are like juggling and they're also spinning like the plates, and then they're also, they're it's like there's so many things to manage and to juggle, and regardless of what role you have within an organization, like we all have so many things. We have home life things and personal things, we have professional things, and we're just trying to juggle everything, and we're trying not to like drop the ball,
mhm.
and we're trying not to break the plate, and all the things. But um I do, and I'm gonna call out Chief Dye because he said this, and I it really like stuck with me. He said your time and attention will go towards the things that are important to you. The things that are a priority to you is where your time and attention will go. And I really believe that it's like, how can we as individuals prioritize the things that are important to us, and why they're important? I think we have to ask ourselves deeper questions of like, why is it maybe important? Because I'm like you, I'm up at today. So Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm in the gym by 5 a.m. Not because I want to, but because my why is really important to me, and I allow that to get me out of bed, even though I would rather hit the snooze button 17 times and sleep until 8 o'clock.
Right.
But, I think if we can dissect within ourselves what are the things that are important and how can we make the time for it, even though we're juggling 100 different things. And then, you know, professionally, what are the things that are important to us? Is it, the training or education, or, the relationships? What is important? How can we put our time and attention into those things too? So it is a balancing act for sure.
It really is. It really, you just, like I said, it's mindset. You just have to do it.
Yep. Well, and I also think that when you do hard things, you train yourself to understand that you can do hard things. I think about this like in a really simple term, like when I'm in the gym and, my trainer is like, lift this amount of weight. And I'm like, you're crazy. I could never lift that amount of weight. And he's like, yes, you can. And then I do it. Now I know I can do it. And
Hmm.
then now I know I can do more, you know, so it's training that resiliency over time to understand that the more uncomfortable things you do, the more uncomfortable things you can do. The more hard things you can do, the more hard things you can do, you know, and so it keeps you going and moving in a forward trajectory. My final question for you before we wrap for the day are your words of wisdom. So, what words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? You know, if you could go back in time to the younger you starting out, what words of wisdom would you share that maybe you wish you would have known then, or something that's helped you along the way?
Man, I would say start investing early. Try to get some portfolio going in your early career because nobody told me that when I first started
Mhm.
until way into my career. Um, have your faith grounded. Have your that's important. Your faith grounded. Understand your why. Understand your purpose, um, and know that you're something bigger. Uh, so that, I didn't understand that until it was too late. Well, not too late. It just took me later in the career to understand, hey, man, I'm part of a bigger thing here than just me going to work every day, getting in a patrol car. Understand that and understand that you're there for your community, that you're part of that community. And it's not just about writing tickets and pulling cars over. Once you're doing those things, start building the relationships right then. And I didn't know that till later on. Um, but that's my words of the wisdom to the new guys is just take it all in, enjoy it. It goes by so fast. Um, and to just be able to, again, with the wellness part, talk about those hard calls, talk about those things that you're seeing that you may suffer some PTSD about later. Make sure you have a network where you can relate and talk to other people and don't hold it in.
Thank you.
You,
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on here and spending an hour with me and talking about wellness and leadership and all the things that you're doing for your community. I really appreciate you.
thank you. It's been an honor to be on. Thank you.
Of course.